Going into series, we all have expectations, whether that be us thinking we're going to love it or expectation about what the series is like. And a lot of the time when we go into these series, when we think about what the series is like, we usually kind of get it right. But sometimes your mind is blown by the way that you go into a series expecting one thing, and when you go into it, you actually get the complete opposite. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. The series that I read and had an expectation for what it was like, but once I actually got into it, it was completely different than what I ever thought of. So, before we get into this video, leave a comment down below about a series that blew away your expectations, whether that be you thought you were going to hate it and you loved it, or an expectation about what the series was like, you thought it was very different than what it actually was. But, let's get straight into this video. That series I was talking about is going to be Kowloon Generic Romance, and by the title itself, I thought that this was going to be a generic romance, but boy was I wrong. This is a phenomenal series, and I really do love everything about it, and I do highly suggest it. And the anime is coming out. I'm going to be watching episode 1 of this right after this video, actually, and after I edit it, of course, because it just dropped today as of recording this. Because as of uploading this, I think there should only be episode 1 out, but if you don't know anything about Kowloon Generic Romance, I'm going to do a spoiler-free synopsis purely for the fact that I could spoil a lot here on accident, and I don't want to do that. Basically, we follow this girl, Reiko Kujirai, or Kujirai. I really don't know how to say her name. I'm just going to call her Reiko for the rest of the synopsis. And she lives in this town called Kowloon, a town full of nostalgia, and there's this one weird orb that gets built called the Terra Earth in the middle of the town, and it's floating up, and really we don't talk about it that much, but it is a pretty big plot point later down the line. So Kujirai goes to work as a real estate agent with her co-worker Kudo and their owner, I forgot his name off the top of my head, and those are the only 3 people in that firm. But there's a little bit of a budding romance between Kujirai and Kudo, whether she likes it or not. She kind of falls for Kudo in a way, and Kudo kind of is not really fully into it because of some past things that happened. And really the start of the series is just her trying to really accept those emotions. And that is kind of why it's named Kowloon Generic Romance, is because the beginning of this is a pretty generic romance, but what you're getting into is not a generic romance. This is a very different series outside of that. That should be it for a synopsis, because I could go more into it and spoil a lot more, but at the end of this volume and the future volumes ahead, if you read this series, I don't want you to get spoiled about what is to come in this series, because it is crazy, like phenomenally crazy. So I want to talk about our characters first. Mainly there's like 4 or 5 main characters, but really there's only 2 really main characters, which is Kudo and Reiko. And I think they're really written well. Their dynamic is really fun. It's really entertaining to watch how they grow together. And I do think that this is a series that will get probably around like 20 to 25 volumes, if not a little bit less. I feel like that's around the length it will be, just purely off how the characters are progressing, and I'm only 4 volumes in. I think there's 10 out in English right now. I could be wrong. I'm very far behind in it. I just started reading it, as you can tell, so I'm going to have to pick up a lot more, but I did think that these characters were very fun to be around. Even the outside cast, the ones that are just friends with Reiko, are just really fun to be around, and their dynamics with even Kudo are just really entertaining to watch and perceive as the series goes on. And it is those little moments within this series that really kind of encapsulate you into this town of Kowloon, which is full of nostalgia for these characters, and it's just such a crazy city. And there's so much to the city of Kowloon that I just think is phenomenal, and whether that be characters or the actual place itself. But I'm going to talk about Kowloon a little bit later. I think the characters are one of the more driving points of the series. The story is definitely the main driving point, which is why you're getting into it. And the world too. I think it's really the city of Kowloon and the actual story that drag you into it. The characters are just there to bring the story up. And I do think that's a main thing about it. I do think that they could be using a couple characters a little more from what I've read, but I do love the characters so far, and if I were to rate them, I would probably give characters about like an 8.2 out of 10. I do think they're very good, and I really like Reiko and Kudo as characters. So, and their dynamic together is really fun and interesting as time goes on. So I would say that I would give it like an 8.2 out of 10. And because I didn't want to go too far into it when I was talking about characters, I want to go into the world. The city of Kowloon is so intriguing. Whether that be you needing to know shortcuts to get around, or just the world, how every store just keeps opening and closing. It's just so entertaining to see this city change overnight, basically. And it's really cool to really dig into this city. And the real estate part of it makes it a lot better, because Kudo and Kujirai are both real estate agents, so they should know their way around the city, but everything's changing and they have to know everything, and it's just a really interesting concept of a world. And I really do love what they're doing with the city of Kowloon, and how they describe it is one of the most entertaining ways to really describe a city of its nature. So I definitely think that this world is a very good one. Of course, it's not like super in-depth and super like, oh, we're going around the world. It's just one city, but they do this just one city justice, because they make it so entertaining. Whether that be the outside random characters walking around the city that you don't really know their names, the new stores opening constantly and Kujirai wanting to try their food, or whether it just be a new entire environment, whether you go from one part of the city to another. It is just super dynamic and super fun to really dig in. And I really think the city does a really good job of really bringing you into the series and making you feel like you're part of it. So I would say that the world itself and the city itself, if I were to give it a rating, would probably be around like a 8.9 out of 10. I think it's one of the best parts of this series. And I truthfully think that if you were to get into this, the city is really going to be the driving point in it. Of course, I've seen a lot of people with the episode 1 talking about why they want to get into it, and it's that one scene, and you're a gooner, I'm sorry to say it, but yeah, I think that the actual city itself is a really good driving point. The next thing I want to talk about is the art, because I think Jun Miyazuki does a great job with this. And if you don't know, this is made by the creator of After the Rain, so if this looks familiar, that's why. It's because it's made by a very popular mangaka. But I will say, I'll put some panels here as I talk about it. I love it. I think the paneling is really nice, and I think the actual backgrounds really drive this city to make it something very unique. I think the character designs are really great for these main characters. I really think that this art is one of the better. I think this is a shoujo or a josei. Sorry, I couldn't even think about it. Shoujo or josei series. I really think it's one of my favorite shoujo/josei art styles. I really think she does an amazing job with it, and I think that this series has some of the best art I've read recently. I think that the actual paneling and backgrounds really drive it. I think the dynamic kind of nature of her art style at times too can also help a lot. Like there's one panel where it's just like the same kind of panel, but it's like dropping like a coat or like a briefcase or something, and it's really cool. I really thought that was a great panel, and I thought that that was one of the few moments of this series that I was like, wow, that was drawn phenomenally. And I think that there's quite a few panels that are like that, and a lot of that is just like the city backgrounds and all that stuff, which is pretty hard to do. And I bet you she has a bunch of assistants that are helping her with backgrounds, but I mean, just alone, just the background design and also the character design within these backgrounds just really helps a lot. I think that this art is very unique too. I haven't seen a character design quite like it in a very long time. It really reminds me of a mix of like 80s and 90s character designs mixed with the modern age of character design. I think that's something that I think is very unique, because we don't see many mangaka do stuff like that. And I think that her doing it like this is something that I've never seen before. It's kind of a very cool character design and a very cool kind of concept of a character design, if that is actually what she wanted to do, is make it feel like a mix of the older character design mixed with the more modern one, which truthfully she did an amazing job if that is the case. And I truthfully think that this is some of the best art I've read recently. So with that alone, I think I'm going to give this like a 9.1 in terms of art. She does a great job with this. I love the paneling, like I said, the dynamicsy of her art. Dynamics? Is that even a word? the dynamic parts of her art is just phenomenal, and her character design are very interesting. Now, I know what I said earlier, the story is one of the main driving points, and I'll have to agree with what I said earlier. The story is one of the points in this series that really make you want to keep reading. I kept reading and reading because I read all 4 volumes in like 2 days because I just wanted to read it. And it's just something that was just enticing me to read it, was the story. It was telling me, you need to see what happened. You need to see what happened, because this is the most spoilery part. I'm not even going to say a massive spoiler, but it is a mystery. And that's why I think that going into that, not knowing that, was one of the craziest things. And even if you go into it knowing it, you don't know everything, but it is a mystery, and that's the interesting part about it, is there's so many little details that you're gonna miss, and so many little things that are like, oh wait, it's kind of an interesting plot point to actually bring up. And I think that a really entertaining part about this series is kind of trying to piece together some of this mystery as we go along. And I think that's something that we don't really get to see that often in a series like this. You just see the series and you think, oh, it's just a normal romance series that is going to be a little like adult romance, I guess, kind of like Wotakoi in a way that's an adult romance. But no, it is a very, very different series than what you expect. It is something that you go into thinking that, because it's even in the name, generic romance, but you go into it thinking, oh, it's going to be like that, and you get something completely different. Wow, I just rambled for 10 seconds saying the same exact thing. I am so sorry. Yeah, it's just such an interesting kind of story that really brings you along this huge kind of journey in a way. And I do think that is very fun. I do think it would be probably around the same as art. I think I gave it art 9.1. I think I would give story the same. I think I would give it around a 9.1 as well. But yeah, that should really be it for this video. I definitely highly recommend Kowloon Generic Romance if you haven't already read it, or watch it, because I know the anime is coming out now, because I'm going to be watching it right after this video when I edit it. But yeah, I cannot wait to read or watch more, because I love this series so far, and I already knew I loved Jun Miyazaki, because I already read Miyazuki, sorry, I said her name wrong, crucify me, but I already read a decent chunk of After the Rain, and I really enjoyed it. I really like her character design, and I really like the way she tells stories, so if you like After the Rain, you're probably going to love this series, and even if you don't like After the Rain, please check this out, because it is a phenomenal series that goes into a very different path than After the Rain even did. But yeah, that should be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and like I said earlier, leave a comment down below about the series that blew away your expectations recently. But that's it. I'm not going to hold you guys hostage any longer in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope I see you guys next time. Peace!